Going live in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thanks everyone for joining this call. Today's session is focused more on construction aspect. So first, before we start with some questions and answers, we'll do a brief round of intro. So hi everyone, I am Mayur. I'm the project manager of Team Illinois.
Should I go next? Hi, I'm Dana. I am on the University of Waterloo team, and I'm actually the incoming senior project manager. So before I was the finance lead, just doing some of the financial analysis, but I'm trying to learn what we can do better for next year as we do our next build project.
My name is Luke Somerville. I'm a member of the construction management sub-team.
Hi, my name is Chris. I was the construction team lead for Illinois in 2019, and then for half of 2020, I was the operations lead.
Hi, my name is Xuhuan. I'm the current construction team lead after Chris left.
Awesome. So just to give some context, our team started with working with Skander, and we had designed a cold form steel fully manufactured, full prefabricated module, which was about to be constructed in Chicago. And then due to pandemic, Skander had closed their factory, and then we went ahead with prefabricated wooden framing construction. So I would like to open the forum for the IST team members. What were like the criterias you had while choosing the contractor, and what were the strategies you adopted for ease of construction coordination? Maybe Chris or Scott, if you would like to.
Maybe Chris, you can talk about how we initially end up with collaborating with Skander, because I wasn't involved at that point.
Right, so we had one of our University of alumni working for Skander, and we had thought about doing cold formed framing, and Skander was one of the top contractors in the country for prefabricated modular homes, and they just happened to be right here in Chicago. So we connected with them through our alumni, and then we started working with them on kind of designing our house for prefabrication, and then that just kind of led into us formally agreeing to work with them to build our house.
Yeah, and one thing to note is Skander did some high rises in the past, but for fully prefabricated residential construction, this was their research project. So even they were experimenting with the systems we had, and we were all working together to find a solution.
So I guess in the beginning, we didn't really look into other options, right? We basically just go straight towards Skander. Okay, got it. So yeah, I can talk a bit more about how we get to our current general contractor. So by the end of November, when actually on the day that Skander's supposed to started do our project, they shut down the factory. So we were in a very awkward situation that we need to find someone to start working on this project and complete by at that point we were saying early March, and of course it's already early December. So we approach in 3 ways, which is first trying to collaborate with big contractors. We tried to reach out to Findorf. I think we did ask about Clark, and Clayco as well. Many other, there's at least a dozen big companies in the Midwest area, probably have some projects around campus, and some are really interested. It's just the timeline. It's really awkward that none of those big companies have the availability to squeeze this project into their schedule. And the other way is some smaller local commercial, not commercial, but local home builders who's smaller firms, but more flexible with their schedule. Then that's how we end up with. And another path is we're still trying to make this project as modular house. So we do have another potential contractor, are modular manufacturers, and we reached out to a lot of modular manufacturer in the Midwest area, because we still want to continue with the steel framing in the beginning, of course, but unfortunately there's not much options in Midwest or even in the country, I think. So I believe for steel frame modular house, it's very rare. As far as I know, I think there are maybe just 2 companies that's doing that. So in the end, we have to change the structure into wood framing, and by evaluating between 2 contractors, we eventually choose the stick and build construction method. So our general contractor for this project is Darcy Bean, and we're really glad that we can support a local business as well.
I see. And just to be clear, it's there are very less contractors with cold form steel. With hot roll steel, there are many prefabricated contractors who can do it in hot roll.
Yeah.
Now I would like to ask Dana, what was your process of contacting contractors for your project?
Yeah, so it was actually kind of interesting with our team because we started off as a design challenge. And what we did was we just reached out to a couple different community housing organizations. And the one that kind of stuck was Habitat for Humanity Grey Bruce, which is kind of like north of Toronto. So what we were doing was they had a development of 6 houses that they were building, and we just proposed to redesign one of them. And it just so happened that their build schedule really aligned with the Solar Decathlon Build Challenge. So we talked about switching, and they allowed us to, since we got the extra $25,000 from the Solar Decathlon, covered a bunch of the costs of actually building it. I think our design ended up being only $40,000 more expensive than the base design that they were going to build. Sorry, I'm the finance lead, so I have to talk about the money. But I know you asked about construction, so it was really awesome that like Habitat for Humanity has like volunteer labor, that they like get the labor and they get skilled people to come on site for us. So we didn't have to do like anything, although we did. We went up on the weekends and like worked on it, but otherwise they managed it all and they oversaw everything, which was really awesome. So I think we were kind of lucky with that.
I see. So like you guys did the procurement and the labor part was covered by Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Did they reach out to like some detailed material procurement, or did you supply all of them and they just handle the labor only?
Yeah, so they have like typical suppliers that they use because they build lots of houses. So they have like the countertops and the cabinets and furniture. But we were able to get some like fancier mechanical equipment that you need. And we have a couple connections through the university that were able to help us get like the equipment we needed. And then there were a couple things such as like we used insulated concrete foundation blocks. So I think that was kind of a new thing. So we had to facilitate getting a discount on that as well.
I see. Another question is, did you factor the labor cost in your final project estimate or final project cost?
Yeah, so we did include it just because we wanted to like be consistent and include everything. Although I think we reduced it partially. Yeah, so sorry, I know I said I was the finance lead, but I was not the finance lead during the estimate part. It's kind of a long story, so I'm not really sure. What they told me was that they included like as much labor as they thought was necessary. So we know like part of the labor was done by volunteers, but a lot of it you need like actual skilled people like plumbers and other people, mechanical engineers, I don't know, to install these things. So there's some judgment calls there.
It's interesting. Like even for our project, we are donating to Habitat for Humanity family, and we are in the final agreement, and hope the family will move soon. So that's some connection. I would like to ask a general question. So for future teams, like, are there any findings from your study that maybe selecting this particular foundation type or material, you could save a lot of cost? Like for us, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to think. I know we did like this weird analysis of floor tiles, doing like the cost benefit analysis of getting like high quality flooring or like hardwood flooring and seeing which one was better. We ended up going with one that was durable because there was 4 children in the family and it needs to last like a long time, and people always going in and out of the house. You need like a good floor, not just like some fancy floor. So it was worth it to get a high quality, durable floor. That's the only thing that comes to mind. If you have anything else, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think for us, for a long time, we were speculating the cost of the concrete foundation, and that turned out to be way higher than we calculated. Maybe it's because of the pandemic and the time frame that increased the quotation for that service, but it was very high than our calculations.
Yeah, I think another reason to add on that is we did our foundation during winter. Luckily, it wasn't snowing when we did the foundation, but yeah, I also noticed that the price range for the quote for the foundation ranges a lot from 30,000 to 10,000 ish. Yeah.
I think there are quite a few materials that our team accepted and used just because it was what companies were willing to give to us, even though it might have not been the cheapest material. So I think Mayur and Scott, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that because we had to account for the actual cost of these materials in our financial feasibility study, that's what made the cost of our house so much more than what it actually was, or than what we actually had to spend, because we had these high quality, expensive materials donated to us.
Yeah, that's very true. Sometimes we select those materials because it's being sponsored. if it was selected by regular whoever's going to live in the house, they probably wouldn't go for that option because they're more maybe more expensive or more high tech than what they really need. That drives up the final construction cost as well, because I did include every piece of equipment, appliances in the house to the final financial report.
Yeah, and I would like to add one thing. So one effective way we found a lot of product sponsor was through Scander, because when we needed few of the materials Scander approach other companies and they were ready to partner with them because of this good unique project. So one strategy in future can be, if once you find a renowned contractor to work with, if you, cold emailing companies are not giving the sponsorship, maybe contacting via contractor is an effective strategy.
Yeah, I think once they like just cold calling and cold emailing contractors, we had very little success. But I think once companies realized like, oh, they have, you know, a contractor on board who's ready to build this, you know, maybe we can do something.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think most big contractors are really interested in building these student projects. As far as I know, we reach out to many companies with big names, and they're willing to help. We didn't choose them because the time frame doesn't fit. But I believe for future projects, if we can ask them early, and so they can coordinate everything, the cost wouldn't be too much because they say they can sponsor partially for the project.
Yeah, and like especially if you're dealing with modular construction, many times like one might presume that the on-site cost could be less, but one need to account for crane cost, the foundation and movement, and on-site a bit of MEP work, which can be a bit significant at times. Cool. I would like to now discuss a bit about the construction aspect where students participated in hands-on activity. So Luke, how was your experience, and what were some things you found interesting and some advice for future team members?
I thought periodic site visits, even during the construction process before we could move in and start assembling, you know, the interior or whatever, were really cool. They were really beneficial. Obviously, it was difficult with the pandemic, but I think opening those visits up to more of the GA would be cool just for the members and so to like be able to see fruits of your labor and stuff. As for the actual, once we did move into the interior, it was good, but there were a couple of problems. One, we OSHA trained a bunch of people that ended up not coming, which was tough. So that retention rate was pretty low. And the other thing was, once we got there, it was sort of chaotic, you know, not as organized as it probably could have been. It seems counterintuitive, but I think we could benefit, like we could be more efficient and get more done quicker if we actually had a foreman there, somebody who wasn't working but just had like a clipboard and a list of activities that we wanted to knock out that day, planned it all out before we get there. So then when we don't get there and we have a bunch of people sitting around asking what to do, and you know, it was usually like you or Shashi that had like knew what had to get done that day, but you guys were helping because you wanted to help, obviously, but I feel like we ended up being less efficient as a result. So in the future, assign one person, be in charge of the activities, have them plan out, take attendance when everybody gets there. I think that could make everything go a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Many times, like only few people know everything about what needs to get done, so other people couldn't contribute from the start.
Yeah, I also find arranging students coming to site and help is really difficult, even for you as project manager, or for me. first is you really don't know how much work and how many people you really need sometimes. You don't need many people over there. Just maybe need 2 or 3 helpers to help you out. But based on everyone's schedule, he or she might not have that time that fits your availability, or the fact is sometimes you can find helpers to help you when you're on the site. And the other issue is sometimes just everyone responded for the same time period, and then they showed up, but there aren't much work for them to do. And for most of the time, we just encourage everyone to come on site. Even if you're not helping, you can at least clean up the floors or do something. But most of times, what we are experiencing is not enough people on the site, right? That's how we end up spending 2 or more weeks trying to finish the interior when everything can be done in a week if everyone show up.
Yeah, and one more thing to consider in future would be like having some incentives for people to, when they are showing up at site. Like I think during the later half of the site visit, we had like food at the end of those construction sessions, and maybe like that helped a bit. So like there are like different kinds of people who would be involved in the construction stage. So one need to think of how can everyone be motivated and do a lot of work in that short period of time.
Yeah, that's very true. I did propose that. So what I was proposing is, as long as you show up, you can get a $10 coupon gift card to the food. Because at that point I was kind of depressed because no one showed up. But yeah, with the food policy later on, I do see a lot more people are involved, like showing up on site and help. And that's how we end up with the completed project. That's something maybe planned better in the beginning, as just in case the cash flow by Jonah is good enough to do something like this. So you have to factor those costs in the planning phase, just in case we don't run into like awkward situations, you'd be not able to pay contractors or something.
Yeah, I was thinking you could do food and also like ISD t-shirt, something. If you log like over a certain amount of hours helping, you get a free t-shirt.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So I think one like takeaway definitely was having more contingency funds during construction phase is important, because we end up spending a good amount of money on buying interior plants or photo frame, along with some, like for inauguration event, we had sanitary supplies. So a lot of unforeseen costs could be there. So having those accounted in the budget is important.
Yeah, I think that's a learning experience for us, right? We haven't been participating in this competition for so long, and now we just started everything. So we need to buy everything, like the drill, other equipment that we bought, but that can apply to future projects. It's like when you start a new company, you need to buy those things and put it somewhere. We don't need a storage space, but the future ISD president can take it home and use it for the next project. That's how that's my vision for these, where this money goes or how this tool is being handled. We need ladders, drills for sure, and we don't necessarily need to leave this equipment with the future homeowner because we need it for the next project.
Yeah, definitely an inventory for ISD should be there. And also might be a good idea to get even like few construction safety jackets and helmet for the team members.
Yeah. So if the next faculty advisor for ISD is from the civil department, I'm quite sure he or she is more than happy to provide us with those necessary PPEs. I believe our department has a bunch that you can borrow, or they can just give it for free.
And oh, look, I see.
I was gonna
Elena.
say from the School of Labor Sciences and stuff. Chris from OSHA actually also has a bunch of PPE in his department. He was super willing to lend us these helmets, so I'm sure like if we needed stuff in the future, that's another resource.
Yeah, I think somewhere we should document the contact information for OSHA training, because that was super helpful and a lot of people got training, and we should continue to maintain that relationship.
Yeah, I think so. Something else we need to discuss is the safety. So for this project, we did the trade-off is we kind of didn't follow exactly what we imagined about the safety protocols for this project, as in terms of the general contractors' safety policies. We just don't have time for, like, we did force them to do something, but they tend not to be really supportive of our suggestions. But yeah, for the future projects, when we have more sufficient timeline, this is really important. I wasn't on the site every day, but based on some images that taken either by them or by our ISD members, something is not done correctly or safely. And that's super concerning.
Yeah, I think we didn't have any choice at that point, and we had very short time frame, so we had to move it. But I think definitely for future, safety is important and should be the first priority.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward when I see, Team Vegas has everyone wearing those cool, super new hard hat and vest and featured in the video, but we wearing casual shirts in the house on the construction site.
Yeah. I would like to ask Dana about their construction experiences and like how was it?
Yeah, so like I said, Habitat for Humanity built the house, but we got the opportunity to volunteer and build it on some weekends. So unfortunately, the site was about 3 hours away from campus. So we would like meet up on campus at 6 a.m. and like file into our different cars and then drive 3 hours to go to this site. And then yeah, it was pretty cool. You got to like learn stuff about the houses being built, like installing a sump pump. I've never done that before. And laying like those foundation blocks and doing different tasks around. It was cool to see the progression of it getting more and more done over the summer. But yeah, we weren't super involved, to be honest. We would just go up every couple of weekends to see how it was doing and walk around and like volunteer for the day. Something we did do, I guess, to incentivize the volunteering was, since it was so far away, we would go camping up there, because like up in like the Bruce Peninsula, it's like beautiful. And we would go up on Friday night and camp overnight, and then volunteer Saturday, and then camp overnight and volunteer again the next day. So that way we could get like a lot of time on the site and also just like hang out and have fun. So it was a pretty fun way to be involved in the project.
I see. And we didn't get a chance to discuss about like preparation of construction schedule. So how was it? Like, did you guys plan everything, or was it more kind of a Habitat for Humanity driven timeline?
Yeah, they actually did it, which is really awesome, because I think in a previous project, we didn't have a lot of team members that knew how to do construction scheduling. So it was kind of nice they did it for us. But going into the future, I know that's like something we might have to do. So, it's good to learn about it. There's a 3rd-year course in scheduling, so I've taken it now and I understand. But back then I was very confused. So yeah, it was nice they did it for us.
I see. Chris and or Scott, do you want to share how we, what tools we used and what was our approach?
Sure.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I would just say that we kind of developed our own construction schedule, like a very kind of high level construction schedule, partially using RS means to get durations of certain activities. But I would say the contractor developed the schedule more, and then we kind of adjusted ours based on theirs.
Yeah. So before we got the actual, like whoever built our house, we were having meetings with other our potential contractor, and they would give us their estimate of their timeline, and so we would develop our own schedule using Primavera, P6, or Microsoft Project, or just Excel. And so in my opinion, usually it's a general contractor's role to develop an actual schedule. Usually you can, it's a really unique experience for Solar Decathlon because we play both the owner's role and some engineer's role, designer's role, and also partially general contractor's role. So it's a combination of everything, but I believe we don't need to struggle too much on the schedule part if we can ask for a schedule from the general contractor, because they can provide their own expertise on how things happens, how long does each activity takes, and they have their more accurate estimate than a bunch of students doing this. Of course, we can get help from professors, but again, a real construction timeline came from the general contractor.
Yeah, and I would like to share that the team should be able to do like back calculation very well. So for the Washington DC deadline, we had to deliver by June, and then Skander asked that if you want to start, we'll take around 2 months to do from procurement to fabrication. So you guys should pay us in January.
Oh yeah, I thought it's
Yeah,
me.
Mario, you're frozen.
Okay.
Mario, you cut out for a second there. Your screen was frozen.
Can you hear me well now? Okay. Yeah, so the point I was trying to make is for team, important thing is getting the design approved by local city council takes time. So like at least 2 weeks once you send the first design to the city council, they give you feedback and then you to resolve those comments, and like spare 1 month for building code approval. And based on the competition timeline, take a month or two buffer and complete before the time required, because there are unforeseen delays from the contractor side, from the local construction aspect. So don't be tight on, okay, it's due on June, we'll finish in May. At least have few months of planning and other aspect. In yesterday, um, there was a discussion that for one of the team, when they were constructing, there was shortage of materials. So yeah, if you are in the construction crew, be ready for all the worst case scenario where what if some material from the sponsors comes damaged? Do we have fund for it? What's our plan B? And someone at the site should be able to do decisions. Like one can't have, okay, I'll talk to the project manager and get back to you in a day or two. Like things move very fast on construction site. And so that's why you need to have someone who is very responsive for the whole construction period.
Yeah, I can't agree more on how communication weighs so much in construction, especially in a small project like this. Things happen every second, and sometimes they face some issue, like project manager should make a decision really, really fast. So that being said, I think for the next project manager for the project, he should expect this as a full-time job, as he shouldn't have too much commitment in other activities, or even take some minimal schoolwork as possible. So I know Mayur, you are very busy with some other schedules. Sometimes I would say it's very hard for me or other members to find you immediately, which is okay for this project. But in my opinion, if the project manager can respond much faster and prefer a phone call other than email, that would be more effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the last semester for the project, it's more than it's like a full-time job, as I said. So the manager and the project manager and construction manager should be mentally and prepared for that. And also, I would like to touch some base upon clash detection. I think that is one good thing the construction management team should learn at the beginning once the Revit model is being assembled and all the systems are integrated. The early they can do clash detection, they can avoid possible future RFI from contractor or the designers.
Yeah, I think that was me and Piyush that ran that at the beginning of the project. And we only found one clash in the whole thing, but I'm not sure how realistic that was in terms of what, like after the design changes and all, I'm saying.
So clash detection is actually very easy. You basically just plug the model in and run a clash detection. We did more than one clash detections because our design has changed a bunch. I remember when Chris was there, someone did clash detection already and had a bunch of clashes. But I think that's something really easy to do. But of course, it's a class taught in grad school. But I'm taking that class right now, and I've kept the what's that called, step-by-step procedure how you should run the clash detection. So maybe I can upload that into the ISD drive for the future construction team to learn if no one in the team knows how to do it.
Right. So I just wanted to add that step one is creating a very organized model and making sure each sub team, is following like relatively like strict workflow for making changes and like updating the the main model, because if you're, and particularly with like naming conventions for materials and stuff like that, because you could run a clash detection and you'll get like pipe 1 clashes with wall 2. It's like, okay, what is wall 2 and what is like pipe 1? Like I think better naming conventions, or at least adding more details to the material so that people can look at the clash and know exactly where it is, would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, and I must admit that like working with Skander was like a lot professional, like where they pointed out each and every detail about how is the canopy connected, do you have all the details for it, is the MEP system having clashes, compared to like working with Darcy. Like we literally spent a month or two figuring out the roofing detail and canopy detail, and they were not ready to start construction until everything is resolved. So like depending on what contractor you have, like allocate a lot of time in design resolvement and also like clashes. And like ultimately like the clashes that we did for Skander were like a lot important compared to like the ones we did later, where like many site decisions were made and resolved and on site.
Yeah, I also want to stress it's not just clash detection. Maybe the MEP should factor, the electrical outlet should be factored into the architectural design, because the electrical lead should know where the furniture would be placed. It would be meaningless to put an outlet right behind a shelf or the bed, not the bed, but we have the sofa bed, so it's like it completely blocked the outlet, so it would be kind of meaningless. So the communication between the architectural leads and electrical leads is it's kind of important.
Same with
And
vents, like having a vent like under the couch, you know.
yeah, and also we had the critical load panel located in the hallway. If it can be hidden in the mechanical room, that would be great.
Yeah, I think like somewhere like after Skander and like when all the leads transitioned at earlier stage, like everything was more coordinated in terms of whether anything is blocking or not functional in architecture electrical. And then later things got paced up so fast that like even the outlet, few of the outlets were decided last moment and done by the contractor. So we the detail planning for few of the design aspect was not as well coordinated as it was earlier.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because the COVID make this competition to be a 3-year competition, and then if it's 2 year, then it would be pretty much about the original team, and then 3 years when everyone graduated and left the team, a new people who's not really familiar with the design um, became the lead and spend time to get familiar with the tools and the design itself.
Yeah, I must say that for future, at least the person who is making decisions. Before that, I think our weekly meeting with Skander was quite productive, where things were being pushed and decisions were made quickly. And few times we even had a meeting with Skander and Thornton Tomasati, and that solved few problems about transportation issues. So have regular meetings with contractor at least a week, and things will start moving faster.
Yep, that's what typically would happen in the industry as well. Um, yeah, talking about the difference between a big contractor and versus home builders, that's like what we are experiencing from shifting from Skander to Darcy kind of verifies our beliefs. If we can stick with Skander, it's kind of a BAME project. You know, we don't really need to look at the drawings if the model is good enough for us to use. When we shift to a smaller contractor, things got somehow turned into handwritten documents. You know, they would provide us quote with handwritten notes about the prices rather than an Excel or something more readable. Of course, that's our trade-off, but in the future, I'd really appreciate if we can have some more professionalism for the project.
Yeah, definitely. Like with big contractor, a lot of stuff also increases with from student side, where better detailed Revit model, better construction drawings, well coordinated design, and so yeah, be prepared for all those. I think with a faculty would have helped in resolving few of the architectural details, but yeah, that is one thing. If you have enough time, big contractors is the way to go. If you're running very out of time, maybe like consider a bit flexible contractor who are open for the time frame. Okay. One more thing I want to ask, add is whoever is the project manager, they should be well knowledgeable about like construction aspect, because at times when people or the contractor call, should we add the ramp or should we remove and change this? Uh, Contacting the leads and reverting back to them adds a lot of time in the communication. So if the project manager or the construction manager is well versed with all the disciplines and at least basic knowledge, that will be helpful.
Correct. I did talk to Haley about the next project manager. I think she has to select one from the CM major, as he or she probably knows the most about construction, and preferably someone who has internship experience. I'm a bit surprised when we study the contract itself. We spend most of the time on the general conditions rather than the scope itself. I really don't, as long as the general condition is okay, I kind of think the scope means a lot more. That's something that we should spend more time to see if it's covered everything we want them to do. Same thing as communication, how detailed every documented thing is. I know, Mercury, sometimes you would say that I thought something's gonna happen, but actually did not. Like, try to avoid things like that. Like, not saying I thought, but you would pull up a document and say, hey, refer to this. This is what we agreed upon, and it's in your scope, or it's in our scope. That's my mistake. I will fix it. Or it's in your scope. You gotta fix it. Something like that. Nothing. It's like nothing. Everything is trackable. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep. And also for Skander's contract, we spent way more time on going through each clauses, and we went to their factory and clarified each and every code and scope. And like BR's contract was a bit different it was more generic conditions compared to more focus on the scope. So definitely some knowledge of AI contracts or something would help students. Dana, what was your team situation with contract? Was it like students were knowledgeable about it?
Yeah, I guess it kind of sounds like your team is structured a little bit differently than ours. And also, I'm sure you had a very different experience than us. But basically how it is we have our executive team, which is like a project manager and then a design lead. So the project manager kind of handles like project manager tasks, but the design lead is the one who really knows the details of the design. So how you're saying like the project manager should know and make all those decisions, I guess we kind of have like the design lead that's more like technical and they know stuff. And then we kind of rely on our sub-team leads to like be the experts in the specific thing. So we have like a structural sub-team, and then the lead would like be the one to look in the wood design manual or the building code or anything to make sure they're following that. And same with like electrical or mechanical, and these different teams, they're kind of like responsible for their own area. And also when we were just starting the build part, we had another lead called the codes and certifications lead, and they also were like supplementally making sure things were done right. As for the contracting part, I don't know if we really did a lot, and I think maybe we could have done more because we kind of just relied on Habitat for Humanity to build the house. And I think we could have had better communication and maybe had someone who was like the designated relationship stakeholder manager, that might have helped.
I see. Yeah, for our team, I think ideally it should have like a project manager and a project engineer for technical, and I had to juggle between both roles at sometimes. ultimately it ended up well. So, but definitely will require 2 positions in future.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's pretty helpful. I was also just going to say, we also have like junior project managers, which help out a lot with the like nitty gritty tasks and stuff. So the senior project manager and design lead aren't super overwhelmed. And then you're kind of like training people to become future senior executives.
That's a good idea. I think ours kind of ended up being like two people who kind of shared responsibilities in both design and construction. Like I know when I was the operations lead, I would do some things related to design, and Mayur would handle some things related to design. But then, like we both had our feet in construction and design, and I'm sure Scott, you and Jackie also experienced that. But I think like definitively separating the responsibilities is a much better idea.
Yeah, definitely at times it gets overwhelming with a lot of work and when deadlines are coming up. So
Yeah, I also want to suggest that in the future maybe we have how to say a competition engineer who only focus on the documentation stuff, that we complying with the ISD competition rules and other things, and one designated person focus more on the construction part. So like one person shouldn't do too much work worrying about the like attending the solar decathlon meetings, and also need to attend project report meetings, things like that.
yeah, definitely more people helps. But yeah, I think it's a curve where at a time we need people, and during submissions, like few people are more occupied compared to other people. So hopefully, like in future, like we have good amount of people and we share and equally divide all the responsibilities. I know it's almost reaching an hour mark, so I would like to do a final round of a question of what is one advice or tip you want to give to future decathlon members?
Well, I would say, honestly, for the build challenge, our main thing was that there was just a lot of different stakeholders to manage, and it's hard to keep track of everyone. So, like, we have our client, Habitat for Humanity, and then we all have the Chippewas of Noash First Nations community, which is where the house is being built. And we have the partner family within that. So there's lots of different people we have to communicate for that. And then within our school, we have our team and we have our faculty advisors and we have our department and like the school people that give us funding and people that write articles about us and just different people within the school we have to talk to. And then you have like, I can't think of more places, but there's like so many relationships you have to manage, and keeping track of them is kind of tricky. And I hope for our next project, we can be like super organized with that, because it's definitely something like a couple lines have been crossed where you're like, oh, what's going on here? This is not right. Oh yeah, and the solar decathlon, of course, too. You have those like monthly meetings and everything, keeping track of all the deadlines. So that's definitely important for the next project.
I see.
I agree. I think that managing the relationships is like probably the most important thing in this project, because like on one side you have all the product sponsors and donors that you have to maintain relationships with for a very long time until like their products are used. And then on the other side, you have like the contractor, the university, the local municipality. But like my advice to future teams would just be to start everything early, way earlier than you expect. Overestimate everything, overestimate the time that it might take to do something, overestimate the budget, and then leave a lot of buffer. Leave a lot of buffer room in the schedule and a lot of buffer in the budget.
Yeah, I would say also you need to plan it way ahead of the schedule. Another thing is to have a really clear responsibility. Like you should know what you should do, what you shouldn't do, or anyway, plan accordingly. Also, for our project, we started late, but that's because of COVID. I think what we should do for the next project is to find a clear target client, just like what CU Border did. They have a client, and we don't. I think that way we can talk a little bit more about how our design meet the clients rather than we pretty much try to squeeze as much high-tech technology, like high-tech mechanical stuff as possible into our house. It would be better if we specifically targeting their need.
Mhm.
Yeah, you guys covered pretty much everything, I think. The one thing that I would offer is just from like a personnel standpoint. I came onto the project when it was already underway, just because that was my year in school, and it turned into a 3-year project. Since the project is so long-term, and the construction management team also had some issues with like new member retention, a lot of people were dropping off. Since it's such a long-term project, I think that taking some time when new members join to really sit them down, explain what we're doing, what their responsibility within that is, and yeah, just generally give them a better idea of like what they can contribute right from the get-go could be huge. And I attribute most of that to COVID. Obviously, I mean, if we were meeting in person, it'd be a lot easier, but for the future, I think that would be a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's really good points. One advice I have is having good communication with contractor is important once things get moving. So one thing which worked out for me was like I was constantly like texting or calling the contractor for small decisions, and it was resolved on the spot compared to like for long term like bigger items it was over email. And I think for this project was unique because the target client was evolved during the whole year because of the university ownership versus non-for-profit. Where are we building? So a lot of things were not decided, but definitely if in future we follow the non-for-profit route, then identifying a client will help. And I would also suggest to get involved with real estate folks for preparing the financial feasibility and making a solid pitch for the project, that can they afford, how much time they will end up paying, and how much savings they need. And very thorough report can make a solid pitch during the competition.
Oh yeah, Rio, that's a really, really great point that I forgot to mention. I was suggesting that we should find someone who's selling the house and knows how to sell the house, like someone from Beverly Hills. Like in that way, we can, because we are engineers, someone like kind of, typically nerdy who doesn't know how to sell ourselves or sell our products. But if we can find someone who's able to do that, that would be awesome. Because in my mind, we have the best architectural design, but we didn't sell it good enough to win the judge's heart. Yeah, that's something else we need to work on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like watching some of the other groups' pitches, at least in the design competition or the design challenge, it just seemed like they were total, like they're in marketing or real estate or something. And we had none of that. Even like some of the other teams had really great architectural renderings. And to be honest, we don't. We have architecture at Waterloo, but it's actually located in a satellite campus. So the architecture students aren't involved in the team. It's just engineers. So we don't have their pretty pictures and stuff. So we're looking to get more people from like the business faculty in the architecture school like involved so that we can get some of that awesome involvement that could make our pitch like really good.
Yeah. The bigger picture is
Two helps.
What's the big picture?
Mayo, are you back?
Just leaves us. with
Now
this
you're muted.
cliffhanger.
Weird. You're like not muted, but you're quiet.
Yeah.
Silent.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, guys?
Oh yeah, no, we can. Oh, wait.
My computer is giving me hard time. All right, I think it was a very productive discussion and we documented and shared a lot of lessons, and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel as well. So anyone from future team members from any part of the world can access it. So thanks a lot everyone for joining and sharing your thoughts. It was amazing.
Yeah, thanks for hosting. It's great to hear about your project more.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.